Hello and welcome to Access Asia. I'm Yuka Huaye, and these are our main stories this week. China expels 9 military generals, marking one of the most significant purges in Xi Jinping's long-standing anti-graft campaign. We'll have a look at what may be behind the latest development as the president consolidates power. K-pop diplomacy goes into top gear, with BTS's leader giving a historic speech at an APEC summit hosted by South Korea. Now, much more than just a music genre, politicians are keen to seize on their star power. And a glimpse into the world of Ghibli and the man who helped propel Japanese animation onto the global stage. We'll visit an exhibition dedicated to the late director Isao Takahata here in Paris. China's President Xi Jinping has been in the global spotlight lately, with his much-anticipated summit with Donald Trump taking place in South Korea on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. While the talks focused on diffusing trade tensions, there seems to have been no mention of Taiwan. This just a couple of weeks after China expelled 9 senior military officials, including He Weidong, the country's number 2 general, and Miao Hua, the Chinese military's former top political officer. Now, for more on the significance of this latest purge, let's bring in Rana Mitter, Chair in US-Asia Relations at the Harvard Kennedy School. Thank you very much for joining us, Rana.
Great to be here, absolutely.
Now, first off, what's behind this major purge then? Ostensibly, of course, they were accused of corruption and are now facing criminal investigations, but we know that they were part of the so-called Fujian clique, closely tied to China's Taiwan war plans, weren't they?
Yes, I think there are at least 2 things going on here, Yuka. The first one is that there is, and has been really for more than 10 years now, a massive purge against corruption going on under Xi Jinping. I think if you asked many Chinese people what policy they would most associate with their president, with the general secretary of the party, Xi Jinping, they would probably say anti-corruption drives. And he's, how could I put it, formalized that sort of anti-corruption activity in a way that's even more hardline than his communist predecessors. So I think it is the case that having purged much of the civilian infrastructure, he's really leaning in hard on the military at this side. And so looking for corruption, looking at people who are, say, getting big budgets and skimming off parts of those budgets to try and spend on their own personal preferences or indeed for their own personal uses, that's one thing that's going on. But the second thing is that this is also about politics. Xi Jinping wants to make it absolutely clear that nobody except him is going to be in control for quite some time to come. And while the people who are being purged are not in fact rivals of his in a formal sense, you mentioned the Fujian clique, and Fujian is one of the provinces, of course, of China. It's across the water from Taiwan. But I think it's fair to say that even there, most of those people would have been brought up through the ranks under Xi Jinping's rule. So he was very aware that they were there. This is a way of pushing back and making it clear that even if you rise within his own system, you can't be considered safe unless you are absolutely loyal to him in every single way.
Yeah, as you mentioned, this second part, the political part, is President Xi Jinping then losing confidence in the political loyalty of China's military elite. I mean, as you mentioned, many of them were handpicked by himself in the first place. Is this purge a demonstration of Xi's consolidation of power, or is it a sign of weakness, perhaps?
I think it is actually a sign of his consolidation of power. I think if he were weak, then he'd be more, he'd find it more necessary to balance different groups within the government. His predecessors, Hu Jintao, and before that, Jiang Zemin, had to do a certain amount of that. There would be different groupings within the Chinese leadership, and they would find a certain number of members of those groups to spread between different parts of the government. Xi Jinping doesn't do that. He basically demands loyalty to himself first and foremost, and he's had something like 13 years in power now to really consolidate that rule. But it is fair to say that the PLA, the People's, the army may have been not so much under his own control that way, and he's now moving in that direction. Yeah.
Now, not all the dismissed generals have been replaced, meaning there are empty seats inside the People's Liberation Army's Central Command right now. How significant is this vacancy?
Well, I think the fact that it's so visible is very significant. It suggests that Xi Jinping is not worried about making it clear that he will purge ruthlessly and will take time to find replacements. But I think it's also a sign, perhaps, of consideration within the armed forces about where concentration goes next. We have to remember that over the last 20, 25 years, that longer period, China has moved away from concentrating on land forces, mainly because its borders with Russia, with other neighboring countries, with North Korea, for instance, have not become really a source of major friction. A little bit with India, but not much outside that. But the Navy and the Air Force, that's really where the attention in the military has gone. But I think looking at who he puts in next in terms of leadership in those sorts of areas will tell us a lot about where China might go. For instance, as you mentioned in your introduction, on questions such as Taiwan, or whether they're going to force use military tactics to force unification of that island with the mainland. That, I think, is where the next generation of military is likely to be asked to concentrate.
Well, Ranamita, thank you so much for your insights. Now, the US-China talks were closely watched on the sidelines of the APEC summit, though Donald Trump didn't stay for the main event. It was, however, an opportunity for the host South Korea to bolster its diplomatic clout, as it welcomed prominent business and political leaders from some 20 countries. And it had more than a little help from one of the country's most important industries, music. In recent years, K-pop has become a powerful instrument of South Korea's soft power. Aurore Chloé Dupuis has the story.
APEC, when business and politics come together. Big names,
really fantastic.
big deals, and big surprises. For the first time ever, a boy band superstar gives a speech at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit.
K-pop's success came from respecting diversity and embracing world cultures, but still holding on to Korea's unique identity. And this is why K-pop is loved everywhere. As the leaders of APEC, your policies and support will be the canvas and playground for all the creators.
Kim Namjoon, aka Rap Monster, is the leader of the band BTS, a global phenomenon that also took center stage at the UN General Assembly in 2021. K-pop is a Korean music genre that hit the international stage over 10 years ago, mixing catchy tunes with dance, storytelling, and social media. Today, it's more than that. It's a soft power tool for South Korea.
The whole point behind the soft power was to sort of sell the hard power, meaning that, yes, they're selling these records, but the music is an ambassador for Samsung, for Hyundai, for LG, for all of these companies that still actually are the predominant drivers of the Korean economy.
The K-pop industry is profitable. In 2023 alone, it made around $900 million overseas. And it's certainly not running out of steam. BTS is gearing up for the biggest world tour yet, 65 shows and a brand new album next year. And guess what the most popular Netflix movie of all time is? The American film K-pop Demon Hunters, with more than 400 million viewers.
You will be hunters.
Among them, the South Korean president himself. He even features in an APEC video with one of the kings of K-pop, G-Dragon, hoping to make yet more profit from the K-pop mania.
He was a leading figure in Japanese animation from its early days into the 21st century. Isao Takahata, who passed away in 2018, was the director behind some of Studio Ghibli's iconic films, as well as a host of TV animation series. Now, a retrospective of his career has arrived in Paris. We went to check it out. Handwritten sketches, cell drawings, and notes for character development. From his beginnings in the 1960s to his last masterpiece, the exhibit delves into the world of a man many consider the founding father of what is today a multi-billion euro industry. Isao Takahata was a titan of Japanese animation, a towering figure who co-founded Studio Ghibli with Hayao Miyazaki and Toshio Suzuki. Now, for the first time in Europe, a large collection of works retracing his career spanning over half a century is on display here in Paris. Despite his long and prolific career, he is somewhat lesser known than his longtime colleague Hayao Miyazaki, and his films weren't always a box office success. But he was a pioneer who redefined the animation landscape.
Takahata, above all, was a director who sought to revolutionize the way they approached this medium, because he wasn't an animator himself. He adopted an approach that was rather ethnographic, depicting a real world truthfully and accurately. This is something that seems quite normal to us today, but at the time it was not obvious at all.
His emblematic work, Grave of the Fireflies, is known as a tragic tale of World War II. But Takahata invites viewers to see what daily life was like back in 1940s Japan. His last feature film, The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, was extremely costly. In order to give it a hand-drawn aesthetic, it used a staggering 240,000 drawings.
His ambition was to bring something that was a lot closer to a drawing, a rough sketch, highlighting essential parts while blurring out the rest, and to put that into movement.
Visitors of all ages can appreciate his world.
It explained more how animations are made compared to other exhibitions. We can learn more about the process.
People from my generation think that animation films are created with just one drawing and one sketch. In reality, it's way more complex.
I got the impression that Takahata didn't put himself at the forefront. Through beautiful teamwork, they created really innovative things together.
The exhibition runs through late January. That's all for this edition of Access Asia. Thanks for watching and see you next time.